Hi, I'm Payal. I graduated in 2016. I was a business admin major and emphasized in entrepreneurship. My sister and I co-founded Sonu Company early during the pandemic, like right at the beginning of March of 2020. And basically a lot of our friends started coming to us asking for advice on engagement ring shopping and how to buy jewelry. So a little backstory, our dad is a jeweler, so we've kind of grown up in the industry. We're technically third gen jewelers, so it's kind of been a part of us for as long as we can remember. But once we started kind of helping him out, we realized we really enjoyed designing jewelry. And it's kind of a special moment when you get to be a part of someone's like engagement and like that's like the first time most men buy jewelry for the first time. They really don't really know. They're like, hey, I want to get something, and this is what I've been told. But I don't actually know. I always knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I feel like I'm always the person that has like these ideas. I'm always kind of thinking of ways that we can do things a little bit quicker and a little bit easier to make someone's life easier. And I kind of feel like that, even when I was at Chapman and, I was taking entrepreneurship classes for my emphasis, I think my senior project was basically Bird for Chapman, like being able to like use your Panther bugs to like check out, one of those like electric bikes, and be able to drop it off at Dodge if you had class in 10 minutes all the way across. So I feel like I always just was very entrepreneurial and, I found something that I really enjoyed doing. And I enjoyed kind of, the network that I had built from helping my dad and like his customers. That's kind of what I found something that I loved, and then I kind of dove head first. There were so many people doing very entrepreneurial things, whether it be in the startup lab that we had, or doing their own thing already aside of that. So I got to see a lot of the success stories around me, and I think that really gave me the confidence that like, hey, I can also do this. And now I look around and I still follow some of my classmates, and they're doing some really cool things, and it's exciting to kind of also be in that conversation now. We're able to do a ring for a couple of content creators and influencers, and that was really cool. But that ultimately led us to our placement on Netflix, is Indian Matchmaking season 3. I think right time, right place. They actually came to our dad, and they were looking to kind of work with him, but with them needing an engagement ring, he kind of looked at us and he was like, "This is you guys." And so we put together a deck, and the next thing you knew, we were designing a ring and about to film. And it was a very surreal moment, and we're still kind of getting used to what that means for us. But I think that was the moment we needed to really kind of solidify that like we're on the right track. Everything moved very quickly. It was like submit the deck. We were talking to someone, and they were like, "Okay, great." We met with Jamal and the production team, and they kind of told us like the vision they had for this ring and the story behind it. So it wasn't really any different than when we normally work with couples. He comes in or they come in together, and we kind of learn a little bit more about them, the story, the vision. And then we actually sit there and kind of design a model of what that ring is going to look like. And so everything happened very quickly. We designed the ring. We showed them a 3D rendering of that. So every custom ring we designed goes through that process. And then the next time he was coming in was to pick it up and getting ready to propose. So very seamless, very easy. The only difference was there was this like giant camera in my face, and I was like, okay, don't look that way. Okay, so I want to say um, my favorite ring is actually one that we just finished. Um, it's kind of a play on a more symmetrical and kind of more rectangular look. So traditionally, the diamonds on the band are more usually round, and the center stones are usually round, versus this one we did kind of like a radiant, and then we had emeralds all around the band. And so it is a stunner. It's something that we're so proud of because it's like encrusted with diamonds everywhere. But it was one of the bigger rings that we made, and to work with our clients to get something so intricate, I think was really cool. If we like create a ring, like obviously we have like photos and stuff of it, but we won't post anything until they actually propose, and kind of let us know that they've done it. So we tried not to ruin the surprise. Also, we still want it to be your moment. And then we'll kind of share images and things like that. I wasn't sure that like jewelry was going to be like the industry I ended up in. I was working in tech before this. So, after I graduated, I was up in SF, and then I came back. I was working in cannabis tech. So I was in a very niche industry. And then, I started kind of helping out the store a little bit more, especially during, when we opened back up during COVID, after the restrictions opened up, like it was kind of hard for our parents to just do that on their own. So once we were there more often and we started kind of helping out a little bit more, that's kind of what led me to jewelry. But I think, having structure and understanding like how a business runs and, how like the operations of it and being kind of very thought forward of that from the tech industry really kind of prepared me to be like, okay, I know enough to like make this run. Willing to get scrappy with it, like learn as much as you can, and really just kind of take in, like if you can learn a little bit more about a role that you're not in just by kind of sitting in on like a 10-15 minute chat or coffee with someone, it's worth it. You never know like what you'll learn in that. And I feel like a lot of those people that like I just randomly like networked with that were in different departments, turned around and were very helpful when I decided that I wanted to do this on my own. My website initially was built from a colleague that I worked with, that was in on our design team. So you never know where it doesn't hurt to be nice, and it doesn't hurt to like grow your network is kind of my go-to. I actually transferred to Chapman. So I came in right at the beginning of my junior year. So kind of immediately I kind of dived into the Greek life side of Chapman. So I was a tridelt. I also held an officer position kind of my senior year. So I was kind of the community outreach person for tridelts. And so I was the one that was like kind of always in front of people and always talking. And I think that like really kind of helps nip away that fear that you have of like randomly going up to people or introducing yourself or having the confidence to kind of get up and speak in front of a big room. So I think my involvement there and a lot of like the charity work and a lot of like being involved, that comes back to like why my sister and I, we talk about this a lot. It's like, at the end of the day, like what's most important to us? Like, is it like, donating to more sustainable mining practices, and like really figuring out like what is important to us and why it's important to us. So I think being in a sorority really kind of helps you understand that and kind of understand the bigger why behind it rather than just like, oh, we're going to support this because of XYZ. My story with Chapman is actually goes way far back. I went to a camp when I was like 10 at Chapman, and I felt like it was always something that I knew that I was going to come back to. So me kind of coming full circle and going back to Chapman to kind of get my bachelor's was kind of a nice moment. I think I still have that shirt somewhere. So, it was something that meant a lot, and it was kind of cool to be able to go back. Mr. Leone was my capstone professor, and that's one class that I will never forget. I think he really challenges you in the way that he sets up his class, the way he presents your capstone project, and the way he like has his final. So I feel like that's the one that stuck with me, like even after being gone for so many years. But there were so many, and there were so many people along the way that just kind of keep you motivated and like kind of show you that like you can do this. You just have to go for it. I feel like business is so broad. Like every industry needs kind of that business like backbone to make it run. So whether, I wasn't sure what industry I wanted to end up in, having that fundamentals of knowing like, okay, every business needs an operations system or it needs an operation process. Every business needs, an accounting or a finance side of it and understanding like, what do we have to make this run? So I don't think it was necessarily something specific. I just kind of knew that it would prepare me for any avenue I was thinking of going. I think for us, really kind of putting more emphasis on sustainable jewelry and making it more accessible. So a lot of, our engagement rings or our ready to wear fashion line that we have is lab grown. So lab grown diamonds is it's basically the same thing. They're still real diamonds. They're graded the same way. But, there are no blood diamonds. There's no immoral mining practices. They're grown in a lab with the same kind of pressure and temperature that's in the ground. So for us, that's really important. We really try to educate them like, okay, this is why we recommend lab grown. And then anything that we work with on the mined diamond side, we, make sure ethically sourced, they are going through the Kimberly process. So just making fine jewelry more accessible, I think is kind of the goal at the end of the day. Like you don't need to spend thousands of dollars to be able to have something yours and shiny and, be a real diamond or be real gold or whatever that is. It's more of like an investment piece for you.